Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Hunter. I'm the Associate Director of Field Sales from Workman Publishing.
And hi, I'm Michael McKenzie. I'm the Associate Publisher for Algonquin and Algonquin Young Readers. We are beyond thrilled to have a new middle grade novel by the Newbery Medal winning author of the massive bestseller, The Girl Who Drank the Moon. Kelly Barnhill's latest is titled The Ogress and the Orphans, and as an epic fantasy set in a fairy tale universe, it is a perfect companion to her previous novel. The Ogress and the Orphans, which we will publish in March of 2022, takes place in the town of Stone in the Glen, a place that used to be lovely, that used to have a well-stocked library, a vibrant town square, prosperous businesses and families, and well-educated children. But when they elected a famous and beloved dragon slayer as their mayor, everything changed. First, several buildings, including the town library, burned down, the trees died, and floods wrecked the parks and farms. Stone in the Glen became a mess, but people continued to put their faith in this dazzling new mayor, a dragon slayer who's never actually been seen with a dragon. He is not who they think he is, and he declares over and over, "I alone can solve your problems." When a young girl goes missing from the local orphanage, all eyes turn to the ogress who has come to live in a crooked house at the far edge of town, where she is surrounded by a flock of sheep, a blind dog, and a murder of crows who all adore her. She keeps to herself, never comes out during the day, and worst of all, is seen carrying the missing orphan late one night. Before you know it, the townspeople unite against her, forming mobs and blaming her for all of their woes. But the children of the orphanage know the truth, that the ogress was bringing the young girl home after she had run away. And they also soon learn that she's been leaving gifts at the homes of the townspeople every night for many years in an attempt to be a good neighbor, because she believes the more you give, the more you have, and the more you have, the more you can give. The wise and sensible orphans can't get the townspeople or the mayor to listen to facts or logic, and they don't yet know what the reader already knows, that there is another reason the mayor has never been seen in the presence of the dragon that once threatened their town than the one they believed for all these years. The Ogress and the Orphans is a poignant story about neighborliness, generosity, kindness, and living in a beloved community while addressing timely themes that we see all around us. People demonizing what they see as different, and people using power to take advantage of others. Readers of Boxcar Children, The Series of Unfortunate Events, and Harry Potter will all love this fairy tale-based fantasy set in a timeless landscape of villages and forests populated by people, monsters, dragons, trolls, and ogres. The Girl Who Drank the Moon has sold over 1 million copies in all editions, and this is just what you would hope for in a follow-up from Kelly Barnhill. We're going to have a gorgeous jacket from the same illustrator that we can't wait to share with you, and we'll have galleys very soon. Speaking of follow-ups, we're so excited to have the second book in Amy Timberlake's new Skunk and Badger series. Your new favorite odd couple garnered tremendous star reviews and best of the year citations last fall. Thank you for all of your efforts to make it a top 10 Indie Next pick, an indie bestseller for over 20 weeks, and Algonquin Young Readers' most successful series launch so far. Tattered Cover also named it their favorite book of 2020 across all ages and genres. We're publishing the second book, Egg Marks the Spot, in September, and this time, readers will follow Skunk and Badger on an adventure. After Skunk signs up for home delivery of the new Yak Times, his elation turns to despair when Mr. G. Hedgehog informs Skunk that he expects to resume their previous arrangement, meaning Hedgehog will swipe Skunk's favorite section of the paper before Skunk can say Sunday book review. Skunk's solution? That he and Badger leave town on a rock finding expedition, the only thing, of course, that makes Badger happy to leave the house. Kirkus has already run a starred review that says, leaning heavily on its delightfully whimsical qualities, Book 2 of Timberlake and Clausen's endearing series also boasts a whole lot of heart, perhaps even more so than its predecessor. As she did with Skunk and Badger, Amy Timberlake uses a story full of humor, hijinks, and her love of language to spin a tale with humanity at its heart and so much for kids and adults alike to savor. And John Clausen has once again provided incredible artwork on the cover, case wrap, in papers, and really all throughout Egg Marks the Spot. We're so glad so many of you are already enjoying it. From our Indie Next campaign, we already know that so many of you are as excited about this book as we are, and we can't wait for you to share it with your customers this September. Every year, American schools celebrate Black History Month. Traditionally, that has meant only Black American history. The monumental African continent, however, has a long human history that stretches back many thousands of years across hundreds of cultures, ethnicities, and territories with shifting borders. But it is hardly recorded in American books aimed at young readers. With African Icons, 10 People Who Shape History, our beloved award-winning author of the critically acclaimed Jumbie series, Tracy Baptiste, wants to start rectifying that by focusing on how we celebrate Black history and the life stories we offer to young scholars. This incredibly important book examines the lives of 10 iconic Africans, including Menes, Imhotep, Aesop, Hannibal Barca, Mansa Musa, and Queen Idia. They were queens, physicians, writers, military strategists, kingmakers, visionaries, and more. Ibram X. Kendi has already said this about the book. In African Icons, 10 People Who Shaped History, Baptiste engages in the hard work of unveiling the myths about the African continent to young readers. She pieces together the stories of 10 people in a continent that fueled the world. This is a great beginner's guide to pre-colonial Africa. I also want to share this from Stephanie Seals at Duende District Bookstore. This is the best book I have read this year. When I say I was riveted, I mean it. It was so empowering, engaging, and fascinating to read about the 10 historical African figures that are highlighted. I read it before bed, and every night I was super excited to get back to it. On a more somber note, it really made me feel the depth of the loss of not having learned about these figures in school and how the institutional racism of so many US schools not teaching any African history except the single narrative of enslavement feeds into cultural and systemic anti-Blackness. So do yourself and any children in your life a favor and help rewrite the narrative by reading this book. It is very accessible and the art is incredible. We couldn't agree more. This quote, Stephanie, brought tears to Tracy's eyes because it's the exact reason she wrote African Icons, and it's also exactly why we're so excited to be publishing it this October. First published in 1937, Genzaburo Yoshino's How Do You Live has been beloved by generations of Japanese readers. The book has sold over 2 million copies worldwide, and award-winning filmmaker Hayao Miyazaki has long referred to this coming-of-age classic not only as a major influence on his work, but also as his favorite childhood book. He has even recently announced that this is going to be the basis of his very final film. Our edition is the first ever English translation, with a foreword by fantasy master Neil Gaiman, who wrote the English language adaptation of Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke. This new edition will introduce legions of new readers to Yoshino's timeless tale. How Do You Live begins with 15-year-old Copper, who has recently suffered the loss of his father, gazing out over his hometown of Tokyo, watching the thousands of people below, and beginning to ponder life's big questions. How many people are in the world? What do their lives look like? Are humans really made of molecules? Over the course of a year in his life, Copper, like his namesake Copernicus, embarks on a journey of philosophical enlightenment and uses his discoveries about the heavens, earth, and human nature to determine the best way to live. Yoshino perfectly captures the beauty and strangeness of pre-war Japan, the changing of the seasons, the fried tofu and taiyaki stands, and the lush landscapes as Copper explores the city on his bike and learns from friends and family what really matters most in life. The translator, Bruno Navasky, has this to say about How Do You Live? It contains lessons on everything: art, science, language, history, politics, and philosophy. It also contains a quiet but powerful message on the value of thinking for oneself and standing up for others during troubled times. How Do You Live is perfect for fans of books like The Alchemist and The Little Prince, and for Miyazaki fans eager to gain insight into some of his most important influencers. We hope you love it as much as we do.
When I was growing up, I loved a good mystery. I tore through the Nancy Drew series and I adored historical fiction. And so the Myrtle Hardcastle series is like catnip to me. This middle grade mystery series is set in Victorian era London, and our indomitable heroine, 12-year-old Myrtle Hardcastle, is an intrepid and irrepressible investigator. Suspicious events keep happening around Myrtle, and who better to solve the murders than her? With her courageous governess, Miss Judson, and her clever cat, Peony, Myrtle employs her wits and the burgeoning science of forensics to crack the cases. The buzz for the series is growing. Book 1 recently won the 2021 Edgar Award for Best Juvenile Book, and it was an Indie Next Pick. And with Premeditated Myrtle and How to Get Away with Myrtle coming out in paperback September 7th, the series is poised to find a wider audience than before. The third installment in the series, Cold-Blooded Myrtle, takes place during an exceptionally Victorian Christmas, and that holiday setting makes it the perfect winter read. Author Elizabeth C. Bunce says, "I hope that young readers see Myrtle's determination and curiosity as an invitation to be bold and curious in their own lives. Myrtle is a heroine who doggedly pursues her own path, despite outside pressures trying to define her. I want kids to see that it's okay to embrace their own passions and interests too, whatever they might be." Cold-Blooded Myrtle publishes October 5th from Algonquin Young Readers. The Counterclockwise Heart is a gorgeous, page-turning middle-grade fantasy novel from award-winning author Brian Ferry. His first novel with AYR, The Secret of Dreadwillow Cars, received 2-starred reviews, was an Indie Next Pick, won the Middle Grade Minnesota Book Award, and landed on many of Best of the Year lists. The Counterclockwise Heart is a perfect follow-up. The book opens in the kingdom of Rheinfeldt, just as a strange and frightening statue literally falls from the sky. Young Prince Alphonsus is sent by his mother, the Empress, to reassure the people. But Alphonsus has other problems on his mind, including a great secret. He has a clock in his chest where his heart should be, and it's begun to run backwards, counting down to some unknown and likely not good fate. Searching for answers about the clock, Alphonsus meets Esme, a fierce and powerful girl who is skilled in magic. The two must work together or see everything they love destroyed. The Counterclockwise Heart is an exciting, atmospheric, and twisty novel that is perfect to recommend to fantasy readers who are looking for an exciting plot and diverse characters. Alphonsus is described as a dark-skinned boy. He's raised by 2 mothers, and Esme is a strong female character. It's a novel about friendship and family and how we can find both in surprising places. It's about how our differences are assets. It's about the importance of empathy and compassion. And it's about how crucial it is to ask questions and remain curious and to think for yourself. It's publishing February 2022 from Algonquin Young Readers. I don't know about you all, but I am tired of screens after a 1.5 years of pandemic life. The Kids Book of Sticker Love is a perfect book to gift to kids ages 7 to 12 for hours and hours of screen-free fun. There are over 1,000 stickers in this book and tons of cool activities to do, like making a paper fish windsock, writing a letter to a friend on cheerful rainbow stationery, decorating your bedroom ceiling with glow-in-the-dark stars, or making these funny little frogs. Also available in this series, the Kids Book of Paper Love has 52,000 copies in print and tons more screen-free fun for kids. Prisoners of Geography is an illustrated young reader's edition of Tim Marshall's adult political science book with the same name, which has sold 1.5 million copies worldwide. In the book, Marshall makes the case that the land on which we live, including the climate and natural resources, dramatically impacts how cultures have developed over time. There are 12 full bleed maps of different geographical regions around the world. So we've got Russia, the USA, Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and so on. For the purposes of giving you an idea of this book, I will use China as an example here. The maps call out key geography in each region, including the ways that humans have built structures to shore up their natural defenses, like the Great Wall, or to boost their economic opportunities, like the Grand Canal. From there, we get a quick run through of how geography has impacted the human history and the politics of the region. In this section, the spread's explaining why is Tibet so important and how geography impacts China's shipping lanes, give critical context to complex political issues of the day. And all of this information, which sounds kind of heady, is made accessible to young readers through the bright, colorful illustrations and the straightforward text. The book will be in a big, oversized format. It's going to be 10 by 12, and it is coming out in October from the Experiment. Jane Eyre is one of my all-time favorite books, and so I had to include the new Lit for Little Hands board book adaptation in this presentation. In the Lit for Little Hands series, the story of Jane Eyre is adapted for kids ages 3 to 7, so they can read it with their parents. The book has pull tabs, lift the flap, wheels, and other interactive elements to add interest. And I love how these aspects of the book contribute to the presentation of the story. Here we have Jane hiding in the window seat behind the curtain. You see that when you pull the tab. And here Jane arrives at Thornfield Manor, which we can see when we pull the tab at the top left. There are several other classics in this series. We've got Pride and Prejudice, Anne of Green Gables, Peter Pan, and more. These are great for baby showers and gifting to parents who love to read classic lit. That is it from me. Thank you all for being here today. I can't wait to see you in person at Winter Institute in February.